I'm Rachel, 40 years old, owner of a small shop on a quiet street corner in Denver, Colorado. People say at this age, a woman is usually settled with a family, kids, and a stable embrace. But for me, life chose a different path. Divorced, a shop built from scratch, and a fractured family bond. I used to think blood ties were unbreakable, no matter what. But some moments wake you up. You can share the same blood but not truly be family. My moment came at my mom Linda's 65th birthday party. The party was at my brother David's house in the southern Denver suburbs. His two-story home glowed with lights, the front yard filled with balloons, cars parked bumper to bumper. I drove up slowly, a small box in my purse containing a delicate silver necklace I'd spent a week choosing for Mom. On the way, I felt uneasy. Her invitation echoed in my mind. "Come, Rachel. Josh keeps asking if you'll be there." Josh, David's 15-year-old son, never checked on me unless he had an agenda. That comment felt like a warning I ignored. I walked in, greeted by the smell of barbecue and music, but no one noticed my arrival. I had to clear my throat and wave to get a half-hearted nod from a relative. I found a modest seat at the long table, laden with food and drinks. The necklace box sat on my lap, a small reminder I still had good intentions. From the start, all eyes were on Josh. He sat at the table's center, a shining star. Every conversation revolved around his school achievements, teacher praise, and dreams of a sports car at 16. Mom, Linda, laughed so hard her face flushed, boasting about her genius grandson. The room buzzed with oohs and wows. I sat there, forcing a smile, trying not to feel invisible in the crowd. At one point, I thought about giving her the gift, but Mom was too busy raving about Josh's report card, comparing him to David's younger days. The box on my lap grew heavy. No one asked about my shop or the fundraiser I'd organized for the Children's Hospital 2 weeks prior. I was a shadow in their perfect picture, centered on Josh. I was used to being an outsider in my own family. But that night, things went beyond endurance. Josh held a full cup of soda. He stood, walking toward me. The table went quiet, as if everyone but me knew the script. He stopped in front of me, locking eyes. For a moment, I thought he might apologize for past careless words. Instead, his voice rang out, cold and clear. "Grandma says you don't belong in this family." And instantly he dumped the soda in my lap. The first sensation was shock. Cold liquid soaked through my pants, sticky and nauseatingly sweet. But colder, stickier, was the gleeful look in everyone's eyes. Laughter erupted, as if they'd just seen the funniest act. David, my brother, clapped, cheering, "That kid's got spirit!" Mom tilted her head toward her friends, chuckling, "He just says what he thinks." I sat frozen, hands trembling as I dabbed at the mess with a flimsy napkin. The laughter grew louder, as if my attempt to stay calm was part of the entertainment. I forced a faint smile, lips dry. Inside, I heard a shattering, not of wet clothes, but of the fragile trust I'd clung to. For years, I'd learned to let things slide. Comparisons to successful David, Mom treating Josh like a treasure while forgetting I was her daughter, nasty rumors from relatives. I thought silence would keep the peace. But as that cold soda seeped into my skin, I realized silence only pushed me further out, trampled me more. I took a deep breath, looked up, scanning the table, faces flushed with laughter, eyes treating my humiliation as shared joy. And I felt something strange, not sadness, not anger, but clarity. Clarity that I had nothing left to lose, and this family never truly wanted me here. 5 minutes later, I stood, calmly excused myself, and left the table to indifferent stares, with laughter faintly echoing behind me. But inside, a decision sparked, like a small flame flickering after a gust. I would never let myself be humiliated again. This is my story, starting at what seemed like an ordinary birthday party. Have you ever been in a moment where your own family turned their backs, making you an outsider in the place that should feel safest? If so, drop a comment below and share with me. That night, leaving the party, the wet, soda-soaked pants still chilled my skin. I drove slowly through dark suburban streets, yellow streetlights illuminating patches of damp grass. I turned off the radio, letting silence envelop me. But my mind wasn't empty. Memories surged like an old film rewinding. I saw myself at 13, curled up in my room, hearing Mom scold, "Why can't you excel like your brother? Why can't you make us proud like David?" At 18, holding my college acceptance letter, but Mom only glanced at it before discussing David's new job. At 30, standing in a hospital after a charity surgery, sending a photo to the family, only to get a curt reply. Nice, I guess. I was used to being in the back seat of my own family, but being used to it didn't mean it didn't hurt. I'd chosen to endure, thinking silence was the only way to keep fragile harmony. That night, as soda soaked me, that silence died. I reached my small apartment, opened the door, flipped on the light. The room lit up, cruelly quiet. I peeled off the wet pants, tossing them in a corner. In the bathroom mirror, my face appeared, tired, gaunt, eyes red from holding back tears. I stared at myself, for the first time in years, and whispered, "Enough, Rachel. Enough." I went to my office, opened my laptop. I recalled all the times David begged me to co-sign loans for his auto shop. I'd refused at first, but Mom's tears and family helps family guilt won me over. I signed, and signed again. Leases for his new shop, payment accounts for his wife's boutique, even a secondary credit card. I'd thought it was love, a sister's duty, but to them I was just a tool. I opened my email, pulling up bank records. My cursor hovered over each entry, my heart trembling, not from fear, but from newfound resolve. I sent requests to remove my name from the main loan and froze accounts I'd naively co-signed. Clicking submit, I heard the soft ding of the email sending, a small sound, but it echoed in me like an explosion. I sat still, exhaling. In that moment, I felt both scared and relieved. Scared of the storm coming tomorrow, but relieved I'd finally stood up, claiming my power. The next morning, as sunlight slipped through the blinds, I heard noise outside. Peeking out, I saw a tow truck hooking up David's shiny new SUV, the one he'd bragged about at the party. I watched, not gleeful, but feeling a cold justice. I'd known this moment would come. Less than an hour later, frantic knocking shook my door. Before I could open it, David's voice boomed through the hall. "Rachel, open the door. I know what you did." I took a deep breath and opened it. My brother stood there, hair disheveled, eyes bloodshot, clutching crumpled loan papers. No greeting, no questions, just shoving the papers at me, yelling, "Fix it! Send the email, sign it back now!" I looked at him. The image from last night replayed, him clapping as his son humiliated me, Mom chuckling in support. I recalled years of being sidelined in family talks like a stranger, and now he stood here, no apology, no regret. "I'm not fixing anything, David," I said, calm enough to surprise myself. "Are you crazy? My shop will collapse. You trying to ruin this family?" I clenched my fists, steadying my voice. "I'm not ruining this family. I'm stopping this family from ruining me." His eyes flashed with rage. He slammed his hand on the wall, the sound echoing. A neighbor peeked out, then slammed their door. I knew I had to be firm. I handed the papers back, saying softly, "Go home, David, I'm done." Before he could yell another word, I shut the door. The slam reverberated like the end of an era. I leaned against it, heart pounding, sweating. But for the first time, I'd set a real boundary. That evening, in my apartment, I looked out the window. The streets bustled, but I felt a strange calm. I knew the battle was just beginning. David wouldn't let go easily, and Mom would side with him. But deep down, I knew. I was no longer the weak, silent Rachel who took abuse. I'd found strength in the legal documents and rights I'd overlooked for years. And maybe this was just the start. What do you think of my choice? If this story grips you, and you want to know what happens next, comment why. If it doesn't, be honest and type N. I want your real thoughts. Sometimes, a family story's truth depends on how we see it. I thought slamming the door on David would calm the storm, but it was only the start of a hurricane. Some families, when you refuse to play the sacrificial lamb, don't back off. They push you further into the dark. I learned that weeks later. One morning, I walked to the parking lot behind my shop. My old blue sedan sat there, but not as usual. Long scratches snaked across the paint, etched to the metal. The passenger side mirror dangled, broken like a limp arm. My heart sank. I stood frozen, keys slipping from my hand, clinking on the concrete. At first, I wanted to believe it was random vandalism, but the next day brought harsh truth. Opening my shop, I found the front window shattered, glass strewn across the floor. Beside it, scrawled in red paint, "Fake Aunt." My knees buckled. I gripped the doorframe to stand. Sitting amid the glass, picking up shards, my trembling hand cut my finger. Blood seeped, hot. But the physical pain was nothing compared to the stab in my heart. Whoever wrote that knew our family story. They wanted to mock me, make me a stranger in the place I'd built to survive. That night, I sat in the shop, lights off except for the computer's blue glow. I pulled up the security footage. The video was clear, heart-wrenching. Two hooded teens, giggling. One opened a spray can, blasting the glass. When he looked up to admire his work, I gasped. It was Josh, my nephew, the kid who once called me Aunt, now turned that word into an insult. I clutched my head, torn between pain and rage. I wanted to storm David's house, scream, "Enough! When did you turn your son into a tool for revenge?" But I stopped. For the first time, I held back. I knew reacting impulsively would let them twist the story, paint me as oversensitive, or dividing the family. In that chaos, my phone rang. It was Uncle Ray, my nearly 70-year-old uncle, still carrying the tough demeanor of his Marine days. His voice was steady. "Rachel, I heard what happened. You can't stay silent anymore. Call the police." I swallowed tears. "But it's Josh. He's only 15, Uncle. If I report him, Mom and David will hate me to the bone." Ray cut me off, firm as a drill sergeant. "No, Rachel. Love doesn't mean enabling. If you stay quiet, you're teaching him actions have no consequences. That's the real crime." I went silent. His words chilled me. He was right. My years of silence had only let them push further. Maybe it was time for an adult to draw a line. The next day, I went to the Denver police station. My hand shook signing the report, each stroke like a cut to my heart. But handing over the video, resolve surged. The young officer, after watching, shook his head. "We've heard this kid's name before, some school incidents, but this time with clear evidence, we have to act." My heart sank. I left the station, both sad and relieved. Sad that Josh would face the law, relieved I wasn't alone anymore. Weeks later, the ruling came. Josh was charged with property damage, sentenced to 3 months of community service and mandatory counseling. Hearing it, I didn't feel joy. I sat in my shop, sunlight on the shelves, feeling empty. He was still my nephew, but also the one who painted "Fake Aunt" on my window. That night, Mom called, voice seething. "You really reported him, Rachel. He's just a kid. How could you do this to your nephew?" I bit my lip, staying calm. "Mom, it's not a game anymore. He vandalized my shop, made me a joke. If I stay silent, he'll keep going. I can't let him grow up thinking he can do anything." Silence on the line, then a hoarse sigh. "You always make things bigger than they are." I set the phone down, hands trembling. In that moment, a bitter truth hit. To Mom, I'd always be the villain, while David and Josh were the favored ones. That favoritism created a Josh who disrespected rules and me. As night fell, I sat in my quiet shop looking out. Car lights reflected on the new glass. I touched its cold surface, recalling the red scrawl. A feeling rose, loss and resolve. I'd crossed a line. No more silence. If my family disrespected me, made me an outsider, I'd prove with actions I wasn't erasable. This time, the law was on my side. If you want more stories like mine and feel a connection, check my previous videos on this channel. They say once you draw the sword of justice, you must see it through. I didn't grasp how harsh that path was until 3 months after the birthday party. But once started, I couldn't stop. I vividly recall sitting at my desk, flipping through old files. Papers once mere formalities, mindless signatures, now became proof of the dependence David and his wife built around me. The lease for David's second shop, his wife's online boutique, PayPal and Stripe accounts, even tax registrations, all bore my name, invisible chains. I stared at my neat, slanted signatures, heart aching. I'd thought it was help, family. But the more I read, the more it felt like an indictment of my naivety. I whispered, "Enough, Rachel. Cut it all." And I did. I sent emails to the bank, requests to remove my name from contracts, notices to freeze accounts. I consulted a lawyer to review and send official documents. Each signature released a piece of the chains, but with it came a tremor. I knew David and his wife wouldn't sit still. I didn't wait long. Within weeks, his wife's boutique shut down, cut off from payment accounts. David's second shop lease defaulted, with eviction notices plastered on the door. Debts piled up. They panicked, and as always, dragged Mom in. I was stunned when my name appeared in David's live stream. He sat in his living room, face flushed, eyes bloodshot. His wife sat beside him, Mom faintly visible in the back. David pointed at the camera, yelling, "That Rachel is destroying our family. She's lost it. She hates us so much she wants us on the streets. You see this? She's a traitor." His wife chimed in, "She's fake, always playing the good guy. She's just jealous." Mom sat there, arms crossed, silent. Her silence hurt more than their slander. In my apartment, I watched the phone screen glow. Comments poured in. Some bashed me, others joined in, a few defended me. I typed nothing. I shut off the phone, sighed, and quietly screenshotted it all. Their words became my evidence. I learned a lesson. Arguing wastes energy. Silence, collecting proof, and letting a lawyer speak, that's the right path. At court, I sat in the back, hands clasped tight, heart pounding. My lawyer presented the evidence. Josh's vandalism video, abused financial contracts, the slanderous live stream. His voice was steady, building a protective wall around me. David was different. He sat opposite, collar askew, eyes sunken. His wife whispered constantly. I saw no remorse, only fear of losing face. Mom didn't show, claiming it was too painful, but someone sent me a photo. Her laughing at her usual cafe with friends. When the judge played the video of Josh spray painting fake aunt on my shop's window, my heart clenched. David's chair creaked, but he wouldn't look up. His wife argued the video was edited. My lawyer calmly presented the original footage with digital certification. Their excuses vanished. The judge's ruling came. Defendants, David and his wife, are ordered to pay full damages, car, shop, legal fees, and reputation, totaling tens of thousands. Additionally, Josh, as a minor, is sentenced to community service and mandatory counseling. He must also issue a formal written apology to his Aunt Rachel. Each word felt like a long-awaited song. I won, not just for me, but for every time I was dismissed, pushed out. Yet leaving the courtroom, I felt no joy. Outside, Denver's wind was chilly, golden leaves falling. I felt a strange void. Justice was mine, but at what cost? A shattered family, a nephew on a wrong path, a mother choosing silence over truth. I glanced at David. He avoided my gaze, face defeated, angry, and scared. I knew he wouldn't let it go. The battle wasn't over. But in that moment, I realized I'd crossed a threshold. I wasn't the silent, enduring Rachel anymore. I'd proven I had rights, a voice, strength. The question remained. After this legal victory, how would I move forward? Would anyone in my family cling to what humanity remained, or would we slide deeper into hate? They say a court ruling ends a story. For me, it opened a new chapter, one where pain wasn't about contracts, money, or broken glass, but a child's heart. Months after the trial, my life stabilized. My shop glowed each evening, bustling with customers. I was busy with orders and expansion plans. But in rare, quiet moments, I thought of Josh's eyes in court. Not the defiant kid I'd known, not quite remorseful, but a mix of fear and confusion, like he was yanked from overprotective arms to face reality. News of Josh came not from family but community whispers. He was assigned community service at the Denver Community Center, a place for less fortunate kids, piecing together broken lives with kindness. At first, I didn't care. I told myself, he's paying his price. But a volunteer friend said Josh quietly cleaned trash, wiped tables, sorted donations, and sometimes stood watching kids play basketball, eyes empty and aching. I saw a crack in his arrogant wall. At the center, Josh met kids, 8, 9 years old, who'd lost parents to domestic violence or lived on social aid. Some were left at church steps, some bore unhealed scars. Yet they played, laughed, shared small cookies. Josh, promised a car at 16, saw kids cherishing old toys. There, I believe, he saw truth. His pampering bred selfishness, and that selfishness became the knife that hurt me. One afternoon, I opened my mailbox to a small envelope, scrawled in Josh's shaky handwriting. I stood frozen, hands trembling, afraid to open it. When I did, clumsy words spilled out. Aunt Rachel, I'm sorry. I did awful things. I don't know why I thought it was fun. At the center, I met kids with no one, but they value each other. I know I was wrong. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know I'm sorry. My heart sank. Anger and hurt flooded back, but so did pity. I set the letter down, not ready to respond. A week later, another envelope arrived. Not just an apology, but a scribbled drawing, a fundraiser idea for poor kids. Simple words. We could sell crafts, donate the money to the center. You have a shop, I could help. I laughed through tears. The kid who mocked me now wanted to join me in something kind. I sat for hours in my living room, turning the paper over. I remembered wanting to pull Josh back, only for David to brush me off. He's young, let him be free. Too much freedom turned to arrogance. Now, in the shadow of consequences, he was learning responsibility. I didn't reply right away, but his letter softened me. I began to believe some changes are real, not forced, but born from experience touching the soul. One late evening, in my shop after closing, the yellow light warmed the wooden shelves. I laid out Josh's letters neatly, rereading each word, each shaky stroke, a spark lit in me. The past can't be erased. Wounds may never fully heal. But could I deny a chance to a 15-year-old? Did I want to be an adult who only punishes, or one who dares give him a fresh start? I didn't write back that night. I folded the letters, tucked them in a drawer, and sat in the dark. But I knew I was ready to open a door. Josh's letters weren't just apologies. They were confessions in the dark, a child's first grasp of his actions' weight. To me, they were seeds sown in barren, bitter soil. The question was, did I have the courage to water them? The answer I knew would come soon. The door I'd held shut was creaking open. What waited ahead might be the biggest turning point for Josh and for me. A year passed since that fateful birthday party. A year since cold soda soaked my lap. And a year since I stood up, cutting the invisible chains of family. Had I stayed silent, I'd still be in the dark, enduring repeated wounds. But I chose differently, and that choice changed not just me, but a child. I clearly remember receiving Josh's final letter, written after months of community service at the Denver Community Center. Beyond an apology, it held a scribbled plan for a small fundraiser for poor kids. He wrote, I'm not good at this, but I want to try. If you let me, I'll help at your shop for the fundraiser. I know I don't deserve it, but I want to start over. I folded the letter, hand on my chest. For the first time, I felt not anger, but a strange compassion. Wounds leave scars, but seeing a child's sincerity, I wondered, could I deny him a chance to make amends? So I decided. The fundraiser day, my shop glowed with lights. Outside hung a banner, Together for Denver's Kids. I stood at the door, heart racing like my first day opening the shop. Josh arrived, not in his usual baggy hoodie, but a checkered shirt, sleeves rolled up. Seeing me, he bowed his head, saying softly, Thanks, Aunt Rachel, for giving me a chance. I didn't reply right away, just nodded. In my eyes, Josh wasn't the kid who mocked me anymore, but a teen stumbling toward maturity. All day, Josh worked quietly, arranging goods, handing out flyers, washing dishes in the back kitchen. No complaints, no shirking. I saw his eyes linger on kids playing in the corner, eyes mixed with guilt and resolve. At the event's peak, everyone gathered for my brief speech. My heart pounded. I glanced at Josh, standing behind the door, hands wet, eyes fixed on me, waiting. I took a deep breath and spoke. Family's never perfect. Sometimes those closest hurt us deepest. But I believe this: if a young person owns their mistake, we adults must be big enough to give them a chance to make it right. The room hushed. A sigh, a soft clap, then applause filled the space. I saw Josh bow his head, shoulders trembling, as if shedding a heavy burden. After the event, Josh stayed, cleaning trash, wiping tables, stacking chairs. When everyone left, just us in the quiet space, he approached, placing a napkin on the table. Scrawled on it, "Aunt, I don't know how to say it, but I'll never forget today." I looked at the shaky words, then put a hand on his shoulder. "Josh, mistakes don't define you. How you fix them does." He nodded, eyes red. In that moment, I saw a kid once arrogant and selfish begin a journey to become someone new. A year later, my shop thrived beyond expectation. We added a local artisan's corner, hired new staff, and got press for community-focused business. But what I valued most wasn't revenue or fame. It was the peace of walking into my shop each morning, knowing I'd built this space myself, untouchable. David and Mom, Linda, remained distant. They didn't reach out, nor did I. I held no resentment, only closure. But with Josh, I'd opened a door. He stopped by the shop sometimes, helping with events. We didn't dwell on the past, but our silence was no longer a chasm. It was a bridge. That night, after the event, in my quiet shop, I sat in my familiar chair. Outside, Denver's streets glowed, distant car sounds echoing. I looked around. Neat shelves, clean tables, Josh's napkin still there, its scrawled words sincere. I smiled, not bitter, but free. I'd held my dignity and offered compassion. That compassion didn't weaken me. It made me stronger. Maybe this was the path I sought. No blind endurance, no lasting hate, just peace in living true to my heart. The greatest lesson wasn't winning in court or protecting my shop, but a simple truth. Family isn't just blood. It's where respect, listening, and unconditional love live. I went from endurance to pain, from firm decisions to peace, finding strength in compassion. Josh, the nephew who hurt me, owned his mistake and sought redemption. I opened a door for him, not to forget, but to believe a young soul can change with a chance. In that forgiveness, I was freed. If this story resonates, if you faced moments like mine, leave a comment. Write why if you believe in compassion's power, or share your thoughts. Don't forget to follow my channel for more everyday yet meaningful journeys.